Good afternoon. Welcome to our November 2nd informational meeting. The first item on the agenda is the City Council staff update by Deborah Owen, City Clerk.
Wow. Easy for you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Sioux Falls City Council. A couple of things to let you know. As you know, Jeff Weber is one of our internal auditors, and he has, we had a little gathering for him last week as he has served the city for 10 years of service, and so Council gave him a little plaque to put on his wall in honor of his service to the city. In addition, before you, there's a couple of things, so I'm just going to try to roll through this one by one if I could. You'll notice that there's a brief memo from me and an ordinance is attached, has this little black clip on it. This is something that the council members, Jameson and Bob Litz, have calendared that for November 9th. It's an ordinance, it's the campground ordinance, and it is the provision that's being revised or proposed is that the council would strike the 30-day limit for campgrounds so that you can stay longer than 30 days in a campground in the city of Sioux Falls. And so there's a copy of that ordinance attached, and you can sure take a look at that. Subsection F of that ordinance, which is in red, has been struck, and then, of course, that subsection will be placed on reserve. And so that is calendared for the 9th, but some members of the council have a strong desire to bring that forward or walk it in tonight, and we can do that via Section 2-15, subsection B of our city ordinance. If you look on the memo that I sent you, that allows council members to walk in an ordinance under new business with a vote of 6 council members. And in doing that, you would basically be setting your date of hearing for November 9th if you have a vote of 6 council members tonight. If council decides to do that, there are, in your red notes on your 7 o'clock agenda, you'll find the motion and the second, that language there, to amend the regular agenda when you adopt the regular agenda, and then language which you would subsequently use under item 25 to bring or walk in that ordinance, and then the council could set the date of hearing for that if that is your desire. In addition, just to let you know, there is an emergency clause that would expedite the effective date of the ordinance, and that's per South Dakota Codified Law 9-19-13, which would make the ordinance, if adopted by the council, effective upon passage and publication. So possibility could be the earliest it would be effective would be November 13th if the council walks in the ordinance tonight, or it would be about the third week in November, that Friday, if we go with the regularly scheduled issue. Any questions on? Yes.
I'm not on the land use committee, as everyone knows, but and I realize that the issue is controversial, and that's fine. That's how government bodies operate, I guess. But anyway, I was just curious. So, is the land use committee are they giving us a recommendation yet? Since some of us aren't on that committee and have not heard all the pros and cons of the whole issue.
Well, I think when we have the land use committee report, we can bring that up to you.
Okay.
And if I could, just one more thing. If you look at, I know there's a number of handouts, so my apologies for that. You have your 7 o'clock meeting. Again, the mayor's Munson's notes, which reiterate that motion in second for you, so you have that language there twice, both in your red notes and in that update. And then the appropriation, the transfers of appropriation are also in hard copy for you. Those are available for those who are listening online at siouxfalls.org under City Council meetings. And then finally, just to remind you that the City Council and the Minnehaha County will be meeting this Wednesday, November 4th, at the Hy-Vee on 49th Street and Louise Avenue at 7:30 a.m. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is Mayor Munson. Anybody here from the administration to speak? Seeing none. Next item is Audit Committee. No report. Fiscal Committee.
Thank you. Following today's informational meeting, the Finance Committee will meet and talk about rental registration and discuss that particular ordinance, and then do a brief review of the budget. And that's, again, just a discussionary action.
Land Use Committee.
Yes. I think everybody in Sioux Falls knows that we had a land use committee last Monday. But as far as what we actually discussed there are a number of important things. First of all, we did talk about an ordinance dealing with temporary signs in the boulevard. And what's going to happen in January, the Planning Department is going to bring before the committee an actual ordinance so we can take a closer look at it. A second issue we talked about was regulation in the City of Sioux Falls. And in the process of talking about that, for the first time we discovered that the city is trying to force people out of the Westwick campground. And, well, we had some rather emotional testimony over that. And Mike Cooper is with us today, and he said that he would be willing to talk with us more about the Westwick campground. So.
Good afternoon, Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. We have been working for some time on trying to address issues that were brought to our attention regarding the Westwick. And essentially, the initial concern that was brought to our attention, was that the camping units, some of the camping units were being used as dwelling units. And so that obviously was in violation of the zoning requirements of the 30-day provision. So that's really what initiated our action to kind of go out and do inspections and to start enforcing the current zoning requirements. At the same time, we began working with the campground owners on a proposed update of the campground ordinance, which I think dates back to the 1970s, and we've been using for a number of years. So, sorry. I'm getting all choked up about this topic here. So at the same time that we were trying to enforce the current ordinance, we're also trying to work on an updated ordinance that hopefully we can address some of the concerns that we have as well as the campground owners have. And we actually have a draft that we've talked to you about before that I believe is pretty close to being ready to go. And I think we would like to bring that forward as soon as the council would see fit to have us put that on the city council agenda. We've also sent out notices, as you know, to people that are in violation of the 30-day notice. So we kind of have a number of things going on at the same time. But just to remind people that the initial issue had to do with the fact that under the current ordinance, you're not supposed to be using the camping units for dwelling purposes. So we're trying to figure out a way that we can rectify this situation and work with the owners of the campground units. And again, I think the new ordinance that we're working on, we can make some real strong headway in that direction. And just as another comment to the previous discussion about the 30-day provision, I'd like to maybe double check, because since that is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, I think we do typically have to set a date of hearing and publish a notice of that in the newspaper. So I just want to make sure that we're following the correct procedure on that, which I'm sure you've already researched that. But if we could bring forward the other amendment that we've been working on with campgrounds, I think that could go a long way in helping to resolve the situation that we have. And then also that would allow us to deal with the people that have already been received, that have received the letters from us.
I think, Mike, the letter said they had to be out of there by November 24th. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
They had to move
Yes.
to a different location, yep.
Yes. And I guess I'm wondering, how do you know they've been there for over 30 days?
How do we know that?
Yes.
I think based on previous inspections that we've had.
So is it possible you could tell us then how long each of those people have been there?
I'll have to go back and ask the staff. I don't have that information today.
Mike, you were, is there a chance that we can just rescind those citations?
Well, again, I think as long as we know that there's some action moving forward on a new ordinance, then we can go back and work with the owner on that previous notice that went out. We've done that before. It's kind of back when we had the issue about the airport ordinance. Mm-hmm. You know, we had to step back and take another look at that. I kind of see this as the same way.
The problem with that is it took a year for us to finally get an ordinance in shape. And
but I think, at least my opinion is that we have a new ordinance that, to me, could come forward for a first reading in 2 weeks, if that would be acceptable to the council.
if I could just Mike, that ordinance you're talking about was supposed to be brought before the Land Use Committee in January, and it
Okay.
was the fourth revision. And so far, the committee has not even seen this fourth revision yet. And I guess, this all started really when we didn't have it referred to committee initially. And then once we got this campground ordinance in committee, then we started really having a lot of discussion going on here. So, I would hope that, that this would also go back to the committee like it was supposed to in January, this January.
That's not under my control, but I guess if we wait till January, that's 3 months.
Yeah,
from now,
I think there's been some conversations that maybe January might be a long time to wait, particularly considering the immediate concerns.
But we have a fix underway. The council is doing a fix.
Councilor Litz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the fact that it took a year or so to fix the airport overlay ordinance is immaterial because we did certain things to render it innocuous, during the time being, and I'm hoping what we're going to do here tonight is a step in that direction as well. I don't care how long it takes to get something right, just so we get it right and nobody's harmed in the process. The other thing that I would say is that, in this campground matter, Shauna Goldhammer, an employee of the city, has done a tremendous job in getting the Westwick Hotel and the campground back there in pretty good shape, and it looks very presentable today, and I'd like to commend her for that, and I'm hoping that what we do this evening, if it passes, is going to help her, because sometimes, city employees get put in a pretty tight spot, and we would just hope that this would alleviate that scrutiny that she's under right now.
Councilor Brown?
Mike, I'm not sure. I've seen the latest proposed ordinance before our 7 o'clock meeting. Could we see what you guys are proposing?
I can get that, yes.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, the proposal is coming forward as an amendment from Councilor Litz and Jameson to rescind the 30 days.
Right.
The administration hasn't brought theirs. It's not been calendared yet.
Right. Maybe I'm
Right, I understand that, but I'd still like to see what the administration is proposing.
Okay. And Mike, can you give us a little history of where the conversation has gone with all the pertinent players with this new proposal?
Well, again, we've been working with 3 different campground owners and a number of different city departments, from fire to obviously zoning and health. Plus, there's also state requirements that we're trying to not duplicate, but we're trying to incorporate our requirements in with what the state already does. And so we're trying to, again, really update this 1970s version ordinance that needs to be freshened up a little bit.
And so it's my understanding that you think you've got an agreement amongst all the players?
I believe so. My last conversation with them is that they are on board with the direction that we're going with this.
Campgrounds, fire department?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
There's still some final tweaking that we might want to have done, but I think we could put something together relatively quickly. But again, that's up to you to decide how you want to bring that forward.
Any other questions for Mike?
Yes.
Councilor Anderson?
Mike, I went and drove through 2 of the campgrounds, both of them on West 12th Street this morning. Do you know, is Westwood planning some other changes out there, maybe including the property to the west of them?
I'm not aware of any major
Okay.
changes that they're planning right now.
And then the one that's closest to I-29, excuse me, I guess they're closing for the winter, and they're planning on doing some updates?
There's been some discussions of some possible changes to that one, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Jameson?
I know that we put this ordinance off until January because we were trying to accommodate Dwayne Spader's schedule and his travel plans. You guys have obviously talked enough and feel comfortable that you've reached an agreement that's acceptable to him, and he's not going to come surprised, right?
Right, because we'll make sure that he has a final comment before we bring it forward, whenever that date is agreed upon by the council.
I'd just like to say that I'm part of the effort to push this forward because at the last land use meeting, Dwayne was there, and we had an opportunity to discuss this ordinance. But we knew due to the holidays, we were going to have to put this off till January. I just felt like we missed an opportunity to get some work done. And so I just want to just move forward and get this going. There's no reason to wait till January. And I think if we move along with our change tonight at the council meeting, that's going to get us over the hurdle. And the city, Mike and his ordinance will come in, I think, just a week behind us. We can cycle it through. So I think we've got a good plan of action here.
Councilor Knudsen?
I was just wondering, in the spirit of compromise or unity or whatever, if we would want to, if it would be possible right after the informational for anyone on the land use committee who's not, has previous plans or has to be at the other committee meeting, to just meet with the director of planning and, this is all new to me, but if we're, if we're going to walk something in tonight or whatever, would it hurt for us to just work a little bit with the director of planning and look at that proposal, which I've not seen either? I realize that because it wasn't quite here, and just kind of work this out between the administration and us.
Well, if I could respond, we've been working mostly with Shauna on this. And as I mentioned, we've gone through three revisions, and now we're on the fourth. And none of us on the committee has seen the fourth revision because we're not sure if it's actually been, finally taken care of, the fourth revision. So I guess my inclination would be to go ahead and vote on this fix tonight, so we don't have these people being forced out of the campground.
Councilor Knudsen?
Yeah, and again, I'm not on that committee and was not present for the very controversial, unfortunate committee meeting.
Oh, it was a good committee meeting. We learned a lot.
I'm actually really glad I wasn't there, actually. And so I realize that, the planning department has been working on this and working on revisions, and, and I government sometimes works more slowly than we wish, but, I sometimes worry also that we might be reacting or maybe even overreacting to some press on this topic, and I don't know, I'm just one of those people that still likes to work as a team, and I guess that's just one of my problems.
If I might interject, Dee, I don't know if there's any overreacting. There's a number of people that got citations that are told to move before the end of the month, and that, that's a problem we need to fix. Now, whether we do it through this amendment, that certainly is one way to fix it, or if the planning department is willing to rescind those citations and bring forth, the whole package, that's another way. So, Mike, does the administration or the planning department have any heartburn over the proposed amendment tonight? I know you haven't seen it. It's just essentially removing that 30 days. It seems like we're getting to the same place anyways.
Right. And again, maybe just to verify that since it is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, are we okay doing it in 2 weeks?
Okay. If we can get that figured out before tonight,
that's my
we'll do
only
that.
question. So,
Other than that, are there any other concerns with it?
no, we would still like to work with you on the revised version of this because we also believe that there's a need to update the 1970s version.
Right.
So,
and you're gonna calendar that for the 16th then?
I guess I'll ask for some.
But it would still be good to be able to have this, fourth revision in committee so we can see it, because we've never seen it.
Okay. Can the committee meet in November?
Well, if we have the fourth revision, I think we can.
That
yes.
might be a good. If we
The
can
rest
meet
of
in
the members
November,
can.
that would sure help the timeline.
Okay. Councilor Litz?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out that I don't think there's this big, problem between us and planning on this here. We're looking for is a temporary fix, and I myself certainly am not reacting to anything in the press because, Monday night out in the hallway after the meeting, that was when this thing kind of came about. And, I just felt that at the time this was the right thing to do, and then the subsequent press that came of it meant, very little to me, actually. And I'd also like to point out that a few years ago, we had a gentleman that did a fund drive for Forward Sioux Falls. And he lived in his 14-foot camper on a campground and raised $11 million for Forward Sioux Falls out of that. So, there's all kinds of folks and all kinds of situations for these things, and I hate to just pass a sweeping judgment on them and banish this type of living arrangements as temporary as most of them are.
What would be the date of the November Land Use Committee?
Well, we were not going to have one because it was close to Thanksgiving, but I think we could probably try to have it on November 23rd if the other members of the committee can meet at that time.
We don't have an informational that day.
Can I ask that we get back to you and make sure that all the members can attend? Because I know some of you are traveling with holidays. Is that
I'll wait to
okay?
hear back from you.
Great, thanks.
So 23rd would work well if it works for everybody else.
Councilor Anderson?
Mike, when would you be able to present this fourth revision to the council at least? Or at least maybe by email, so we can
Sure.
read it before?
Yep, before that date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Knudsen?
Is there any chance, would there be any advantage to just telling us about it right now? Well, we're all gathered here. We don't have an informational at the end of November.
We all want to hear about Shape Sioux Falls. I think the main issue is that we're updating definitions. The 30-day requirement is gone. And again, we're trying to bring it into compliance with what the state is already doing so that we're not duplicating that, and then making it more into conformance with what the current campgrounds are actually doing. But I'd be happy to send out to all of you the latest draft so you can look at it.
Councilor Staggers, was there anything else for land use?
Well,
committee?
in response to Dee's earlier question at the beginning of the informational, we have 3 members on the committee. 2 members are sponsoring this fix tonight, and also I'm in support of it, too. So we didn't have a formal vote on the committee, but we all 3 agreed that the fix should be passed tonight.
Any other comments for land use committee? If not, let's keep moving. We'll go to public service committee.
No report.
City council open discussion. Councilor Knudsen.
On a more fun, more pleasant a topic, just a friendly reminder to the listening public that this year will be the 7th year that the Falls Park will be lit for the holidays, and it's called Winter Wonderland, as you all know, and some of us who were at CVB the other day, Convention and Visitors Bureau, just picked up a stack of flyers to distribute around our city, and then we were mailed a copy too. So again, just a reminder to the public that Winter Wonderland will kick off this year on Saturday, November 21st at 6 p.m. Reindeer and camels, Santa, Mrs. Claus, zoo animals, etc.
Okay. Councilor Anderson.
Earlier today, I sent out an email to the council asking some questions on a couple contracts that we haven't been updated on recently. The convention center and the animal control contract. Mike, do you have any updates for us on this? I was hoping Mr. Rowenhorst would be here, but nothing? Okay.
Councilor Jameson.
I guess it makes it difficult to get any answers if nobody shows up.
Were you done, Councilor Anderson?
Sure.
Very good. I was out doing some errands today, and I drove by Colville Lake on Madison Avenue that separates the 2 lakes, goes by the pool, and I see that I believe it's the bank stabilization project is starting there, and the road is getting widened, and there's some nice block work going on there, and it really excited me to see that end of town and that lake getting that treatment. It used to be fast cars and pretty girls, but now I drive by a project like that, and it gets me going, so somewhere along the line things have changed for me. But I would encourage you to drive down there and see what's happening, because it's really something.
Councilor Jameson.
I just need to make a comment about last Monday's Land Use Committee meeting. I've been asked by some if I could start tweeting some of those meetings for others to join in the excitement, but, I think I've talked to Bob Litz afterwards. He knows I'm certainly disappointed in him walking out. He knows that. I don't think it was the right thing to do. I think he knows that, too. But what happened there was truly a misfortune for Sioux Falls. We really went backwards, I feel, in a committee meeting when our chair took the opportunity to use it as a political positioning statement. Now, I stayed calm and listened to it all and absorbed what I could and tried to make the best of that meeting, that committee meeting. But, and I know the chair of that committee was chosen in light of maybe trying to keep our committee chairs on an even playing field based on the politics at play. But I would really encourage our council chair to reconsider his appointments in the effect of doing some good business for Sioux Falls instead of maybe making sure we're all on an even playing field. I really think we took a step backwards, and I don't think it was necessary. I wanted to be productive at that meeting, and we were hamstringed. Our hamstrings were tied. And I guess if that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the year, I'd like to make note of it in this meeting amongst all of us so we're all aware of it and we can prepare for that and plan for that and either allot for more time or just call the rules thrown aside, however the game's going to be played. But please, Chair, reconsider your appointments and help us out here.
And of course, Mr. Chair, if I could reply.
Councilor Staggers?
Yes. I guess my first question would be, Greg, you talked about that being political. Can you expand on that?
Sure. I have the speech here in front of me that Kermit decided to hand out and give to all of us, and there's one reference here to enhance prospects for re-election. Now, that's just one line taken out of here, Kermit.
Okay.
And how that city officials oftentimes make new regulations just to enhance their re-election prospects.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's true. That's true.
But I guess if we're going to start each committee meeting with a
Who did I
speech-
name? Did I name anybody? Did I name anybody?
Although maybe you want to read it to the staff and everybody here. You've got
Yeah,
a TV audience.
I can go ahead and read this but
The rest of the council wants to sit through what we sat through. Go ahead and allow it to happen. This is the out of order sequence that we had, and I had to deal with. Bob Litz had to deal with in some way. Now the rest of us can deal with it. Somebody's got to call the ball here.
Okay.
So if I could just ask, once again, what's the political thing?
I'll tell you what, why don't you and Councilor
Because, see,
James...
we've taken two steps backward here with Council Member Jameson's comments, unfortunately. We are going backwards. You're absolutely right. We are. We're going backwards. This was totally unnecessary. Why didn't you talk to me? During the meeting, after the meeting, before this meeting? This is the first time you've expressed this to me. Also, as far as being hamstrung, during my meetings, I allow people the opportunity to talk anytime they want to. You had an opportunity to talk, and you did talk. And so the other people in the room also talked, too. See, this is the first time in a long time that we've allowed the citizens an opportunity to truly talk about regulation, which is a real concern that many people have. And this has been brought out at the community forum that you sponsored. This was, I think, number 5 issue or number 4 issue. And so that's all we were doing. If you'll remember, I mentioned these remarks were to begin the conversation about regulation in the City of Sioux Falls. That's all it was. I also said that people, you don't have to agree with these remarks or anything like that at all. You can go ahead and say anything you want. Now, I was talking to the people as a whole, and we did have some discussion. And fortunately out of this meeting, we did learn that the city was going to try to force people out of a campground, which was totally inappropriate. And so we learned something very, very important, because we do not want these people forced out of the campground. They don't know where to go. So I'm it's very unfortunate that you didn't talk to me about this, Greg, before this meeting.
Okay. Councilor Litz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Jameson's right that I probably do owe anybody that was offended by my leaving the meeting an apology, and I do so extend an apology at this time. But, you know, Greg does have a point there. It's very unusual for a chairperson to get up and lecture his audience and the other members, and I've sat through quite a few of the Staggers lecture series, and I certainly hope I'm not going to get billed tuition somewhere along the line. But to me, if you're the chairperson, you're there to run the meeting, and you can give your personal opinion by your vote. And I would like to also point out that I did have a couple of phone calls on this issue, and that was one of the persuading factors. Not necessarily what I heard in the meeting that night, but some phone calls that I got that led me into that. And also, you know, the fact that we did approach the campground issue the week before, and then all of a sudden the same players are there again, you know, and it was not on our agenda, that troubles me. It just smacks of not being above board on the process, and I think that the transparency in this has to be paramount.
I think it's important to have transparency. And what did the owner of the campground say? You mentioned that you felt that I set this up. And what did the campground owner say to you?
He said that he went online, I believe. I don't remember what got said.
You don't remember what he
Mr.
said?
Staggers.
I know what he said.
Probably in the minutes, you know.
Councilor Knudsen?
I would just like to add that, you know, we all get to work together 7.5 more months, and we have really so much to get accomplished in that time. And I know we're just humans, and we sometimes just reach, you know, we just get frustrated once in a while with each other, but overall, we work really well together. And I would just like to encourage us to all get back to work right away, put all this other stuff aside, and just see what all we can get done in the next 7.5 months. We will work together until May 17th, and we just can't get too much. I mean, we have our list of projects are just too long to spend any more time on this stuff.
And let me mention, I agree with you, Dee, that that's what we should be doing now. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to forget about what happened here, these remarks, and just continue on.
Councilor Brown?
Different subject. I think we all received a letter. It was addressed to Mr. Cooper regarding the Arena Convention Center and the contract. I just want to make sure that Susan Scott was answered. Have you responded to her, Mike? We'd be responding this week. Okay, because this was dated October 28th, so I would hope that we'd have a timely response to her, and I think that Kenny Anderson brings up a good point. When we have the boards asking for updates on where we're at, I think the council needs to be updated as well.
I guess I had on my agenda here that we were going to talk about, that was one of the items we were going to talk about in the executive session, since it is a contract under negotiation, so maybe we'll be able to get more information.
I just hope leadership presses that point with the administration, that we need to have some updates on some of these issues, and especially when we get information from a third party, you know, that knows more about the issue than we do.
Right.
It starts to raise serious questions on the cooperation we're getting from the administration as far as updating us on issues.
Well, we're going to have the city attorney and the director in charge in executive session, so I imagine we'll be able to ask some more questions. Public service, was that?
Did that.
You were
No
done?
report.
Oh, yeah, council, open discussion. Was there any other open discussion? I would just have one final comment. I would, you know, most of us have been working together for a number of years, and from time to time there's going to be disagreements, and that's probably a healthy thing. And, you know, we all have individual personalities, and we need to be respectful of that. There's probably some room for give and take on all sides here, and I would hope that maybe we just have this as a learning experience, that we can all move forward. But I'm happy, and I will respond to anybody's concerns as chair. You just have to let me know what you're thinking. With that, let's go into our presentations, unless there's any other open discussion. Next item is Shape Sioux Falls, presented by Jeff Schmidt, Assistant Director of Planning and Building Services. That's not Jeff Schmidt.
I was on the agenda, too. I was just last on the agenda. Sam Trebilcock, City of Sioux Falls Planning Office. Got to get this started here. I handed out for you an executive summary of the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 plan. We spent a lot of time with this. Media Services put this together. Did a great job in doing that. This PowerPoint that you see in front of you here, the animation was done by them. I think it's important that we try to give you a little bit of a summary on a document that's so large, it's so comprehensive. Obviously, what we're looking at here is the comprehensive plan, the update of the 2015 Growth Management Plan. I was here talking to council, I believe it was the end of May, where we dealt with one chapter of this document. That was Chapter 5 now, which is the land use and development policies, or what we call in this chapter Shape Places. Now we're bringing back the entire plan, and I'm going to talk to you about the remaining chapters, give you a little tour through that. Hopefully you then have some time to go through that and spend some time looking at that, and then we'll come back later on and talk to you about that, getting that adopted. First of all, why Shape Sioux Falls 2035? It's a comprehensive plan that develops policies that will help guide future ordinances, budgets and master plans. For instance, the zoning ordinance, as we're looking at updating that ordinance. Also the CIP, as we start bringing projects into that. Another important fact that we're looking at is, as I mentioned, this is an update of the 2015 Growth Management Plan. 2015 is 5.5 years away. We typically like to plan a little bit further out than that. It's time. When we did the 2015 plan, we adopted that in 1995, 96, so it was 20 years out. We're looking to go out 20, 25 years now with the 2035. A comprehensive plan does look at very specifically guiding the future land development of the city, and also the redevelopment, and we'll be talking about some of the chapters about how we maintain what we have already. Obviously, what we do now also is kind of the charge is the future shape today. That's what we looked as planners. We need to look at what we do today, help shape tomorrow, thus shape Sioux Falls. Chapter 1, which we call Shape Community, is the goals and objectives of the plan. And everything else in this, in the document starts and is talked about in the goals and objectives here, and we try to link with the remaining chapters through these goals and objectives. Goal 1 is to effectively manage growth, which is looked at in Chapter 2. Goal 2 is to plan neighborhoods, land use, and urban form. And Goal 3 is to improve the sustainability of the community. We do that through 3 different objectives, and I want to mention these because I think they are important. One is an environmental stewardship. Goal B is economic health, and Goal C is social equity. I mention that because those are the 3 legs of sustainability, and I think that's an important thing that we need to be looking at. And a lot of the public comments that we've received also mirror that. Chapter 2 is Shape Growth. What we're looking at here is the overall intent of this chapter is to determine the location and phasing of new development out to the year 2035. The strategy is to ensure that the city utilities can be provided in a timely manner to planned development. Now, the way that we implement this chapter is through our annexation process. When you guys hear annexations coming up, I think there's even one tonight, we're looking at this chapter. This is the guide for our annexations. The map that you see in front of you there helps us guide where our future annexations are going to be out to the year 2035. Now, what do those colors mean, and what are they talking about? The lightest color is the urbanized area, and I'll come back to this map, but I want to explain each of those colors. The brown colors is the planned urbanized areas. We have a number of different colored, there's a green, there's an orange, and then I'm forgetting the other color. There's green, orange, and a blue. That's the future urbanized areas. Those are where urban services will be available when programmed. And then the very dark brown areas are the rural areas. Those are the areas that we'll want to maintain as rural areas. So again, getting back, here are the three colors. There's Tier 1, 2, and 3. Blue is available within a 5-year period, within your CIP period. We can provide services within the 5 years, and we could annex within that area. Tier 2 is annexation is not advised yet, but within the 2035 period. So we see that we could provide services within a 5 to 15-year period. And the orange, we could provide services within a 16 to 25-year period. Getting back to that map, you can see where we're going then. The blue areas, again, are the areas within 5 to 15 years we could provide services. The green within, the blue is within a 5-year period within the CIP period. The green is within a 5 to 15-year period, and the orange is within a 15 to 25-year period. So we're trying to phase that growth. We don't want to put all and try to develop the entire area because we can't obviously service that area with infrastructure. So we're trying to help you and all of us try to help plan where things are going into that area. Now also, again, within that light tan area is the urbanized area, and we talked about policies within there also that are important to maintain that area as best we can for future development and redevelopment and conservation of that area. We talk about that later also. Moving on to Chapter 3 is the Shape Neighborhoods. The overall intent of that chapter is to guide the arrangement of future neighborhoods and employment centers within the 2035 growth area. The strategies to ensure overall objectives and intensity of the impacts of land uses are consistent with the future land use map. Our implementation method here is the future land use map. We have a review process that we go through. You probably have gone through future land use map amendments, and we want to look at that process here. Now, our current future land use map looks like this. You're probably familiar with that. We're looking at significantly changing that future land use map. Not only the growth area that we're talking about, which has changed a lot to the southeast, northwest, and somewhat to the north, but also the way we do it. This has a tendency to be a little bit inflexible and typically rarely happens the way that we set it out to occur. So instead, our map is going to look more like this. It's more a node map, and we have policies within that area that create a little bit more flexibility for the developers to come up with designs and things that will work within that area. What we're looking at is the red circles are your biggest employment centers, and then we have smaller employment centers. The green ones are sub-regional. The smaller blue one is a community center, and the orange is a neighborhood center. Those are based upon the road segments or the arterial, where the traffic is, how we want to preserve those corridors for access management in the future. So we base it upon those type of factors. And also what we're looking at, some other types of things include business parks, industrial, light industrial, all show the area that we're going to be looking at within that area within the future land use planning area. There's even future parks and schools that we've identified within this area. Chapter 4 is shape transitions. After we know generally what the land use is going to be within an area, then we need to determine how we're going to transition those land uses, going from heavy industrial down to single-family residential. Overall intent is to maintain a neighborhood character by creating compatible transitions that minimize land use conflicts. The strategy is to define the character of planned zoning uses and develop methods to transition those planned zoning uses through a land use compatibility chart. Implementation is zoning. It's our zoning process when we're actually doing our rezonings and having those rezoning amendments coming through. We're going to do that a little bit differently, and we think a little more effectively through a compatibility chart. This is the way that this will look and will help guide decisions by the Planning Commission and hopefully at City Council level too, based upon the transitions. A 5 transition, or 5 on this chart is very compatible. A 1 is not compatible at all. There's not a 1 that shows up on this particular chart, but there is on the full chart. As we see it on different, you can see that. The 2s, 3s, and 4s have different levels of compatibility, and we define that within the plan. And this is both. There's 2 different charts that make up the full compatibility chart. Chapter 5 is Shaped Places, or the Land Use and Development Policies. This was the chapter that we asked to have, that you adopted in May. And this develops the form of zoning ordinance standards and provides additional development options through planned unit development districts. So these are the zoning ordinance standards, site plan review process, and planned unit development regulations that we have. A very visual chapter, as you might remember. What we're trying to do is create lively, secure, and distinctive places within here. There was a significant public involvement process here, as you might remember. I'm not going to talk about that, as you might remember that from last time. But again, we have a visual listening survey that was based a lot on that chapter. Chapter 6 is Shaped Corridors. The overall intent of this chapter is to develop attractive street corridors that enhance and reinforce adjacent development, the strategies to determine general density and setback areas for neighborhoods based upon each corridor's environment and current development patterns. Each street corridor, or any type of corridor, that includes trail corridors, they all create a different environment for different neighborhoods, as you might imagine. And going into, we have a street development pattern. Downtown has a different feel, of course, and a different development pattern than much of the area around the rest of the community. And so we need to base our zoning ordinances and our standards somewhat off of what that environment is like. The same thing goes off of different corridors, like you have on your strip commercial corridors or some of your other corridors. So that's what this chapter deals with there. Also, some of the other considerations, we're looking at complete street corridors as being a very important thing, and we also deal with that in Chapter 5, and also starting to look at some standards for distinctive streets. What makes one street distinctive from another, and how should we be designing for that street? Chapter 7 is Shaped Facilities. Not just looking at land use within this plan, we're also looking at the kind of facilities and infrastructure that we need to be looking at out to the year 2035. Here, our overall intent is to maintain and improve city-owned facilities, infrastructure, and services, strategies to provide and maintain public facilities at uniformly high standards in all neighborhoods of the city. Implementation method, here's the CIP and your budget. We look at a number of different things in this chapter, including transportation, wastewater, water, landfill, libraries, fire, police, public services, parks, and other facilities. What comes out of this chapter is, of course, a list of what we consider to be large items to put on the radar screen for future CIP. We're trying to look out as far as 2035 for future facilities and services and infrastructure. Some of the other things that we're looking at there include some city services that foster diversity, social well-being, citizen participation, and accountable government as based upon our goals and objectives in Chapter 1. Chapter 8 is Shaped Foundations. This is the overall intent of this chapter is to conserve and to revitalize the older or foundation neighborhoods of our community. The strategies to identify neighborhood conservation areas, which will be the basis of the concerted and grassroots neighborhood planning effort. Within this, implementing through some neighborhood plans and strategies. We identified some of those neighborhood conservation areas within this plan, some of the areas to be, that we're looking at. Those would be some of the future things that we've been doing already within Whittier and the Pettigrew Heights neighborhood. Some of the other things that we should be, neighborhoods we should be looking at in our core area. Also, historic districts we deal with in this chapter, how we can continue to preserve those and maintain the integrity of those areas. Chapter 9 is Shape Resources. The overall intent of this chapter is to conserve and protect an important environment, human, economic resources through sustainable practices, the strategies to protect the environment through identification of resources, protection through land use ordinances, and land purchases and develop other sustainable implementation strategies, Implementation is through our subdivision ordinance, the CIP, zoning ordinance, overlay districts, and future resource master plans. We identify within this plan critical open spaces and environmental assets and man-made development constraints. Other resource considerations includes urban forests and conserving resources, including pollution prevention, alternative energy, land, and green buildings. And finally, Chapter 10 is shape implementation. These are just the ways that we're going to be implementing some of the things I've already mentioned. Some of the things that I haven't include assessment development fees, and then also looking at the joint zoning area and subdivision jurisdiction that we deal with and work with the counties on. One other thing to mention is we've also been doing public involvement since I talked with you last. We had an open house on August 25th on the full draft. 70 people attended that. We also had a number of chapter review meetings in which a number of people attended. The intent there was to get some people in a room that could really dig into the chapter and give us comments about what was understandable, what was not, and some things that we should be adding. We got good comments during that process. We also received written comments from the open house and specifically some others that were sent in. Some of the examples of those comments included change some of your maps, encourage development in areas, encouraging development in development areas of the cities, how we deal with multifamily in Chapter 3, more pedestrian-friendly development, what triggers a neighborhood conservation plan, need to allow wind and solar power with our updates of our ordinances, how can we better conserve water, things of that nature. I would encourage you to look at the appendix. We have a full public involvement plan that details all the things that we've tried to improve with chapter or draft 2 that just came out here on Friday that addressed many of those comments. I also would like to mention that there are people here from our chapter meetings and also from our other stakeholder meetings that are here that would like to speak, and I'd like to let them get a chance to say a few words about the process, and then I'll certainly take any comments from you, too. If there's anyone here, I know that there's maybe a couple that might want to. If you would, I'd certainly appreciate it, and save the time, rest of the time for them. Oh, Pat.
Yep, we're open for comments. Anybody that was involved in the process. You just give us your name, please.
Chris Pearson, citizen. I attended all of the comment meetings that Sam alluded to where we dug into things deeper. And I'd like to say that the planning office did an outstanding job putting this document together. It really gives the city kind of a roadmap going forward. There are a lot of changes from what you have now that will significantly improve the quality of life in Sioux Falls. And being able to take part in the review, I have the planning, and this document has my full support as a citizen of Sioux Falls, and I encourage the council to take this very to heart when you moving forward with Sioux Falls.
Any questions?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. My name is Meredith Larson. I live at 5109 East Fairway Place. I am here as a citizen and also a member of the Planning Commission. I participated in the initial steps to put this plan together, and also took part in the chapter review meetings. And it was exciting to not only participate in the beginning and be able to voice my concerns and my thoughts as it relates to the future development of Sioux Falls, but also to review the outcome. I was very pleased with what the document looks like now and the direction that it's heading. I've been in Sioux Falls for almost 10 years now. This is a very exciting place. I suspect that given the community or the environment here, there's no doubt that Sioux Falls will continue to move forward in the right direction. As a planning commissioner, I look at this as a tool. We are oftentimes dealing with issues, and the present zoning ordinances don't necessarily address some of the things that we have to weigh in on and vote on. And I know that as a part of this, the zoning ordinances will be modified. And for a planning commission and a commissioner, that's a very important thing for us going forward. I know there are times when we have developers come to us and they want to do some things that we think, in terms of design, would be very beneficial. But there's really no zoning ordinance now in place to necessarily allow some of these things to happen. And we're caught from time to time having to sort through what we can allow and what we can't. And in fairness to all of the developers and the community as a whole, I think this is a great document. And I expect the zoning ordinances that come out of this will also help us at the Planning Commission and you at the City Council. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond and to comment. I want to extend my appreciation.
Sir, could you give us your name, please?
Oh, excuse me. Perry Hanovan from the west side of Sioux Falls. I want to thank particularly Sam and Jeff and other city planners that were involved in, and other citizens that were involved in the development of this plan. And I attended not only the open house, but all of the comment meetings that Sam referred to following the open house, and also invited the city planners to come to Augustana College and to provide an opportunity to hear about the plan. I wanted more people to get involved in this listening and opportunity to comment, but we had a number of students, faculty, and some of the neighbors that showed up for that meeting too. So I know that they took this on the road and provided opportunities for citizens to comment. I also appreciated the opportunity in which they truly listened during these meetings, took notes on our comments, and having looked at some of the drafts, I see that some of those comments and suggestions have been implemented in the second draft that's now online. I also appreciate the fact that it was online, which gave many citizens who could not attend some of those meetings the opportunity to comment. And I directed many people there, as well as many others did, so that opportunities could be provided. I am encouraged by the flexibility I feel that has been drafted in the document. And I believe that, looking forward, that some of the suggestions that are made might provide healthy opportunities for our old neighborhoods, as well as some of our new neighborhoods that are yet to develop that might occur. And as Sam already alluded to, a broad-based number of chapters are included and topics included, including green issues, transportation, future developments, rehabilitation. So there's a wide variety of things in the document. I support the document and hopefully encourage your adoption of the document. So thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Anyone else wish to speak?
If I could just, for one moment, I had one more slide, Mike reminded me of this. The next steps beyond this, we would go into formal adoption process. We actually start that on Wednesday night with the Planning Commission meeting and having their public hearing on this document. It would then move forward to City Council for your formal review and formal public hearing, as noticed 10 days in advance. We would then also move forward with the joint city-county planning commissions for both Minnehaha County and Lincoln County, and also the joint city counties for Lincoln and Minnehaha County governing body meetings also. I've already met and talked with both the county planning commissions and talked with them at the same time, so they've heard about the updates. Other than that, I certainly would entertain any questions that you have.
Any questions for Sam or Jeff or Mike? Such a thorough presentation. No questions. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Any other, that's it for presentations. We do have an executive session scheduled. Is there any other open discussion before we go into executive session? Councilor Anderson, did you want to add the animal control contract to the executive session content?
Well, since the person that responded to the email wasn't here, nobody from his department.
Who responded?
Mr. Rollhorse. I don't know if we're going to get anybody to give us any information at this time.
Or you could add it, take it off if nobody shows.
Is the,
I think that's just going to have to be something that yourself and, excuse me, I think that's going to have to be something yourself and Councilman Jamison are going to have to address at the next leadership meeting.
Okay. Well, we will go into executive session for purposes of contract negotiation with ASME and the arena. I need a motion first, please.
I so move. Knutson?
Is there a second?
Second, let's.
Okay, first and second, we're in executive session. Oh, we need a vote. All those in favor? We'll go into executive session, please vote. Do we roll call? Roll call.
Council members Anderson,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.